celestial palanquin is in alignment, traveler. Will you go to Fargrave? Good, good. Now, let me prepare your way to the realms beyond Nirn.
The Anchorite! You're as bothersome as that damn Dremora! No matter. The votive rune is placed, and now you die!
You brought this on yourself, Dagonist! Hey you, with the glowing hands. We have something in common. If you're not a cultist, we should talk. Damn these Waking Flame cultists. Bringing their Mehrunes Dagon madness to Fargrave. Their votive runes infect mortals with dark magic. I came to meet someone about all this when I spotted that cultist and my hands began to glow. Just like yours. This is Fargrave, a city in Oblivion with permanent and open connections to other realms. The cultists place those votive runes faster than I can destroy them, putting every mortal who lives here at risk. That's why I agreed to meet with the Dremora. Lyrinth, the Dremora. She sent me a letter. Said the cult threatened Fargrave. Nirn, too. She wanted my help, but I can't deal with that now. The votive runes are clearly the immediate danger. We should work together on this. I can pay. I need you to talk to my contacts. Madam Wim's establishment is here in the city. Initiate Teal'co meets me in the burn, out in the Deadlands. See what they know about the votive runes and the cult's plans. Then meet me in the Fargrave Crafting Plaza. Really? All I know is that she's a Dremora who has an interest in the Dagon cult known as the Order of the Waking Flame. This is where we were supposed to meet, but all I saw when I got here was that cultist and the votive rune he was casting. No. The votives mess with mortal emotions, make everything more intense. Not sure why. Lyrinth said the magic in her letter would allow her to recognize me. I think that's what the glow was. If only I could get the Grasp to care about all this. The Grasp of the Stricture. They're an order of Daedra, mostly Dremora, who serve as arbiters and interpreters of the Stricture. A magical covenant that allows Fargrave to serve as neutral ground for all Daedra. They enforce the laws, to a point. Well, since mortals aren't bound to the Stricture, the Grasp pretty much ignores us, unless we interfere with the Stricture in some way. As long as the cult and its votive runes only threaten mortals, the Grasp simply doesn't care. Madam Wim is a dark seducer who has her thumb on the pulse of Fargrave. Nothing happens here that she isn't keenly aware of. She deals in favors and information, for a price. And the more you seek her help, the more expensive her services become. Initiate Teal'co is a member of the Order of the Waking Flame. He was my friend before the cult recruited him. Turns out, Teal'co's had a change of heart. He's been providing me with inside information about where the cult plans to strike next. Madam Wim runs an establishment in Fargrave called the House of Wims. Just be careful. She enjoys getting her hooks in new arrivals. You'll find Initiate Teal'co in the Deadlands, an area known as the Burn. The Plaza of Portals will take you there. The Plaza of Portals is one of Fargrave's most important locations. A series of permanent gateways to other realms in Oblivion. One of those realms is the Deadlands, the domain of Mehrunes Dagon. Is it? I hadn't noticed. Look, we only just met. If you turn out to be trustworthy, I'll tell you the strange tale. If not, well, we'll deal with that if it becomes necessary. Perhaps. And maybe it's just a fashion statement. Now, go talk to Madam Wim and Initiate Teal'co while I make my rounds. I need to check on my charges around the city. As a crossroads, it's natural for people from everywhere to wind up here. I check on the mortals of the city on a regular basis, help them as I can. That's why Wim calls me the Fool of Fargrave, because I care. And it's why I abhor the Daganists. Then you know the cult is evil. They appeared recently, proselytizing in the plazas. Then they started placing those votive runes. Some kind of prayer to Mehrunes Dagon. But it intensifies mortal emotions. The runes are dangerous. I know it. The glow seems to have faded. For now.
You mortals have actual business with my liege. Only the dead will see an end to this war.
Why won't you all just leave me alone?
Something terrible's about to happen. I just know it.
Gabella finds us all. I've even known Daedra to dance with her once.
Another poor mortal succumbed to the power of the Daegonic votives. How unfortunate. But what's this? A new face? And what does Madame Whim always say? New faces bring new opportunities. Let's talk. Has anyone ever told you that you have an incomparable mien? Most in this celestial palanquin we call Fargrave have the barest patina on their auras. But you, I know multiple buyers who would pay top price for a soul like yours. Shall we trade? What? Poor Josette? She's one of my favorite regulars. At least she was, before the votives affected her. First, she became belligerent, then extremely melancholy. Now she's practically mindless. But tell me, darling, what brings you to Madame Whim's? She did she? All true, but I hate to brag. She's an unusual mortal, though, isn't she? Our darling of the alleys. And clever. She sent you so as not to increase her tab at the House of Whims. As a new customer, your first transaction is free. Ah, two topics on the lips of many a Fargravian. The Daganists are mortal rabble with a fetish for destruction. The votive runes are prayers to their prince made manifest. Spells that seem to affect only mortals, like poor Josette here. An interesting question. Alas, I have no answer. But you're not the only newcomer to our fair city seeking such knowledge. My eyes about town tell me that Lyrinth the Dremora has come to Fargrave. She's in the shambles, searching for Sister Seldina. You want more? I'm giving away an awful lot as part of your free sample, but I am feeling generous today. Sister Seldina leads the Daganists here in Fargrave. She and Lyrinth seem to have it out for one another, though I have yet to ascertain why. As the name implies, I trade in eccentricities and capriciousness. I buy and sell as impulse dictates. My establishment carries indulgences from across Oblivion. And information, of course, along with food, drinks, and an amenity for every appetite. Oh, the mortal on the floor? No, I don't believe so. The spell is quite potent. I suspect the votive runes have a darker purpose than simply elevating emotions and turning mortals into mindless husks. Pity the grasp refuses to investigate. The grasp of the stricture. They enforce law and order in Fargrave. The stricture is a covenant that binds all Daedra and allows us to operate somewhat in concert. Since mortals aren't bound by the covenant, the grasp tends to pay them no mind. An apt description, if somewhat inaccurate. They do enforce Fargrave's laws, but in ways that won't always be comprehensible to the limits of mortal understanding. Try not to commit any crimes in front of them, and they won't harass you. Probably. You came here without knowing, darling. How refreshing! Like an otherworldly conveyance, Fargrave personifies the existential concepts of transit or passage. It did start out as a strange nomadic realm, after all. That's part of the city's allure. It means if you want to travel the myriad corridors of Oblivion, there's no better launching point than fabulous Fargrave. In addition to our famous Plaza of Portals, the entire realm is littered with dimensional access ways. Plus, we have no prince. Without a prince to set the laws and manipulate Fargrave's reality, we're free to shape this city as we choose. The freedom that affords us is sublime. Plus, no prince means less chaos and violence in the streets, rogue cultists notwithstanding. Aren't they beautiful? One of our best features. No one is quite sure who or what they were, but legend has it they once carried the city from plane to plane, hence the allusion to a palanquin. Is it true? Well, the skeletons are real enough. A personal query? That will cost extra, my darling. I am a Mazken, what your kind commonly call a dark seducer. Unlike many of my brothers and sisters, I use my charms to beguile and entice for knowledge and profit. I have no interest in violence. A terrible place. I urge caution if you decide to venture there. It's a warren of alleys, tenements, and ruins, hidden behind thick walls. Many mortals live there in the most appalling conditions, but it can also be a good place to conduct business. Oh, innocent mortal. The kind of business best engaged in, where the grasp of the stricture doesn't reach. It's a perfect location to hide a Daganist cult, seeking to cause chaos and mayhem. I'm surprised our darling of the alleys didn't mention that. Darling of the alleys, fool of Fargrave, woman in the mask. Ever since the anchorite arrived in Fargrave, she's gone out of her way to help the mortals cast upon our shore, and she asks for nothing in return. Pity I know so little else about her. It's rather rude of you to interrupt someone who is clearly quite busy. Now,
Back again? Well, Nerdling, I still offer to guide you through the constrictions of Moath. Your body will thank you should it endure. And I'm not lowering my prices just because you're a returning customer. Be warned, physical injury is a certainty for mortals undergoing the constrictions. You are warned, mortal. The exchange is made. Let us begin. The constrictions are completed. Your bones are surprisingly resilient, Nerdling. Now leave me.
Again, I greet you as the mouthpiece of Great Vruzimbu, fellow mortal. For all who enter the House of Whims, my master offers spiritual lustration. The caress of his animus is gentle and soothing to a disquieted soul. Great Vruzimbu is a magnanimous being, fellow mortal. But even so, even one so gracious as he must collect a tithe for the lustration, for the sake of the House of Whims. Great Vruzimbu has bestowed on you the blessing that is his dulcet ardor. Let his quintessence adhere to you as the warm embrace it is.
Again we are here, Living One. Ninzeru still has the golden panacea should you wish to partake of a cleansing. Ninzeru, needless to say, highly recommends it. Of course, gold begets gold, Living One. Unlike the Madam, Ninzeru provides no free samples. He will summon the prized substance from the most valuable of sources. Coming right up. The cleanse is successful, as Ninzeru's cleanses always are. You must permit to pass what you living ones refer to as time, I believe. The golden panacea writhes within your offal. Ninzeru cannot perfect what his tonic has already begun perfecting.
Quiver.
All of you, stay away from me! Stay away!
Disaster is coming! Fargrave is doomed!
There's no point. No point at all.
Ooh, I could look at these shinies all day, but I'm supposed to find a volunteer for an experiment. I don't suppose you have a cold, do you? Or serious allergies?
Snakeskin. Then you aren't the volunteer I was sent to look for.
We're trying to cure sniffles. Varus also sent me to get the chicken broth and toad eyelids he wanted. Oh, the eyelids aren't for the experiment. Varus just thinks they're tasty. Varus Dradane? Oh, he's only the most exceptional sorcerer in the Sarathu tongue. He's even made a cure for hair loss that works on ogrims. You should really see the next exhibition he agrees to do. They're always fun and educational.
You're really new here, aren't you?
They're a group of mages and dark elves who have a pact with the fearsome Quath to study magics and portals within Fargrave. Varus is pretty high up in the ranks because of his brilliance. Oh no, I'm just Varus's apprentice, but he's already taught me so much about spellcasting and magic, I know I'll be great with a bit more study.
You're not good-looking enough to talk to Erlur. Freshen up and try your luck next time.
What sort of thief has to leave something behind because they didn't bring a bag? Oh, don't worry. I didn't take anything from you or from Fargrave. Please don't report me.
Why won't you all just leave me alone?
Something terrible's about to happen. I just know it.
You there. The Grasp requests your aid. Mortal, you seem more capable than most. The Grasp of the Stricture has a task that you may be able to assist with. The apprehension of mortal criminals. I understand your kind enjoys material gain. I can pay you for your help. A band of mortal thieves tried to steal a large quantity of the drug known as Red Maiden. When I attempted to apprehend them, they ran to the Plaza of Portals and fled into the Sever. You must search the Sever for these criminals and bring them back to me. Their leader's name is Buck. He went through the portal last, and therefore should be easy to find. He is a cunning mortal, but he and the others cannot have gotten far. Return the criminals to Fargrave once you have apprehended them. I will take care of things from there. I request that you proceed with haste. If their trail is lost, it will be difficult to pick it up once more. The Grasp interprets the Stricture, that which binds all Daedra and Fargrave. It keeps order by effectively turning the city into neutral ground. We are the law, to put it in your terms. We make sure citizens adhere to the strictures. Our influence does not extend beyond the dunes of Fargrave. The strictures are not concerned with the domain of the Prince of Destruction. They are now beyond my reach, but not yours. I find it hard to believe a mortal such as yourself is ignorant of such a substance. Your kind are always scrabbling for it. Red Maiden is a drug. When regularly ingested, it can anchor a mortal to Fargrave just as a pact with a Daedra would do. To prevent a sickness called the Drain, your mortal minds are not meant for the complexities of Fargrave. Occasionally, mortals experience decay. Some become violent, others begin to drool. Ultimately, they will succumb to it and die. Red Maiden is a rare commodity and difficult to produce. Mortals would tear each other apart for it if it was not strictly regulated. Not every mortal contracts the Drain. but many fear the very possibility and will do anything to acquire the drug. A foolish group of mortals, nothing more. They have been in Fargrave for a few years, always skirting the lines of the stricture and eluding the grasp. They are close friends and look out for one another. It makes them difficult to rein in. No, they have never been so bold before. Perhaps they grew bored of petty theft and being a nuisance. I could not say. Many of their transgressions have been too small for the grasp to interfere. Not this one. Indeed, they will find it much less forgiving than Fargrave. If they manage to survive the lightning and the tearing winds, they will need to contend with the wildlife. The Sever is not a gentle place. Be cautious when you venture there.
They say the Queen herself killed Duke Renchant. Good for her.
Bringing a book for travel is well worth the pack space. Shame they're so heavy.
Standing in front of these orbs is supposed to rid you of your aches.
Step aside, mortal, unless you wish to challenge the authority of the grasp. Dremora cannot shirk their debts. Unlike fragile mortals, the word of a Daedra binds for eternity. Nothing is more valuable or more viciously contested than an unpaid debt. Calazan's accusation is a grave matter. I will determine the value of the payment based on the arcane intents of the stricture. The modest value of living mortals and dead mortals is clear. A dead mortal in this condition, however, is more difficult to appraise. I will base my judgment on the flesh's utility, what tasks it can perform, what price its various organs might fetch in the marketplace, and so on. It appears to be capable of movement.
One mortal delivered as promised. Calazan involves the grasp at his own peril. Yes, and he's a fool to think so. Calazan made no mention of the mortal flesh's condition. His involving the grasp doubly proves his weakness. He demanded a mortal. He should count himself fortunate that I provided one that moves. Ah, you are mortal, so the distinction matters to you. No, it is not unfair. Calazan needn't feed this mortal, or clothe it, or listen to its wretched sobbing about how it misses its family. He should be thanking me. The Grasp do not respond gracefully to summons without merit. They will quickly rule in my favor, and Calazon will be left to explain why he involved them in such a trifling matter. I am eager to see what punishment they apply.
This short-horned swindler means to play me for a fool, as if I cannot tell the difference between a dead mortal and a living one. Pinufox claims this shambling corpse is valid repayment for her debt to me. I told her I would accept a mortal as payment. The intent of my words was clear. I desired a living one, as much as one can desire something so crude. Arbitrate? Huh. No, there will be no mealy-mouthed compromise. I summon the Grasp to settle matters beyond protestation. They will rule in my favor. Yes, the adjudicators of Fargrave's rules and customs. We derive these rules from the Stricture, a force few have dared to explore fully. The Grasp oversee all interpretation of the Stricture. And as I said, the Stricture is on my side.
Step aside, mortal. I will determine the value of the payment based on the art. I will base my judgment on the flesh's utility. What task? True, but its smell is only slightly more repellent than that of a living mortal. And it will not require disgusting mortal necessities like food and warm clothing. Surely this is an improvement.
This short-horned swindler means to play me for a fool, as if I cannot...
Out of everywhere I've traveled, the best and most unique items are always here in Fargrave. It's inspiring, honestly.
I've seen mortals fight. You are not always undeserving of respect.
I'd fight you, but mortals never pose a challenge. Lose to a mortal? Me? Do you know how ignorant you sound asking questions like that? I am Erodolso. I haven't lost a battle since time began. My opponents would have to be alive for word to spread about my prowess, and my comrades in arms are too orderly to boast. Only those who are desperate to prove themselves boast. Time is of no consequence to immortals. If you're looking for a place to get blood on your blade, the shambles are the place to go. When I see you there, we'll test your tongue against my steel.
The drained are everywhere. It's enough to make your heart ache. Mages or scholars will tell you that Nirnborn cannot comprehend the magics and grandeur of Fargrave. But I think our minds know that we're not supposed to be in a halfway space. Without a pact to anchor us, the drain will claim us all. They are. Most of us mortals are all right. There are organizations who have pacts with powerful Daedra, but plenty of pactless mortals resort to a substance called Red Maiden to keep their wits. Anyone who can't stay on Red Maiden, well... That's true, but I've seen what happens when the drained sickness gets bad. The drained forget to eat. I'm a cook. I feed people, so I've been feeding them when I can. Spend enough time with people, and you'll be able to see their problems better. I'm not exactly sure, but it helps stave off the effects of the drain. All I know is, once you stop taking it, the drain comes back with a vengeance. It's not a pretty sight.
Mortals without an appetite for knowledge do not last long in Fargrave. Come, I will share what I know. All I ask is coin and an attentive ear. It is a very complicated place, Pico, but yes. Would you care to hear about the sights or the culture? You will not find food in the Daedric quarters. Dremora think food attracts mortals like a carcass attracts flies. Even so, the stricture states that eating is permissible. So, always be prepared to eat something that is not strictly speaking food. You thirst for knowledge, I think. As for me, I am just thirsty. Perhaps we can help each other. It is a very complicated place, Pico, but yes. Would you care to... Each of the flying books you see in the bazaars orbit a master tome. Unless you cross the book's title out in blood, they cannot be separated. So, be wary of any merchant offering to sell you one. If you purchase it, you won't keep it for long.
All of you, stay away from me! Stay away!
Why am I cursed with such a task?
My companion does not talk much. Her mind remains in oblivion.
My vision may be gone, but I see you heathens clearly!
What does that one glow?
Keeping me tied up is a waste of everybody's time. The door to the shambles is right there. They should just let me go. Oh, little mortal, are you curious? Do you want to know how I got myself tied up by a main road in Fargrave? Do you think you can solve my problems and set me free? I found a loophole in the stricture, and the Grasp, being the uptight order that they are, don't like it when someone does that. So I'm being detained. Again. Thinking of finding a loophole yourself, little mortal? The stricture is the code that's kept Fargrave running for centuries. The Grasp interprets the stricture and carries out judgment on anyone who has their own interpretation. Oh, you are looking for your own then. The stricture prohibits the killing of any sentient creature. I didn't kill anything. I didn't even harm anything. I just made them wish I had. Apparently my methods are under review. That depends on whether the Grasp thinks I violated the stricture and put their precious city at risk. There's a chance they'll send me back to Oblivion, again. But that's never stopped my plans for long. I'll be back.
Shine got herself trussed away over there. Serves her right too, going on like she was.
For a collection of races with mortality issues, it's a surprise that Nirn isn't barren.
So many new faces in Fargrave. If you need work and can handle a weapon, we should talk. As a representative of House Hexos, I assure you that this is all above board. Oh, I don't handle jobs. Think of me more as a scout for the organizations in the city who hire adventurers. Speak to Luna Burial or Vaveli Indivel. They hire mortals and Daedra for dangerous jobs on a daily basis. You're a wary one. I consider that a mark in your favor, considering some of the characters I've seen pass through Fargrave's many portals. All right. What do you want to know? Luna Burial represents the Gleaners, a group of... how do I put this? They're thieves. Oh, not the kind that robs from Fargrave. No, they retrieve items from elsewhere for interested parties in the city. They hire lone adventurers to help with that. Vaveli Indivel represents the Sarathu Tong, a syndicate of outcast mages who control a lot of trade in the city. Between their business dealings and research projects, they require groups to take on jobs too dangerous for single adventurers. Well, if you want to work alone, see Luna Burial. Vaveli Indivel of the Sarathu Tong also provides jobs, but they're dangerous. You'll want a group to deal with them. Here, consider this an investment into your adventuring career. Luna Burial has jobs that you can handle on your own, and Vaveli Indivel trades in tasks that require groups of adventurers. Regardless of which job you take, I guarantee you'll be paid well for your work. That's a House Hexos promise. Yes, I'm a member of House Hexos. Since you made it to Fargrave, I'll let you in on a little secret. My house gave up its claims in Tamriel centuries ago for a lucrative position in the Celestial Palanquin. But even I'm not privy to all our secrets. Well, you don't get to be the foremost mortal family in a multi-dimensional Daedric city without being betrayed a few times over the centuries. We thrive because my ancestors were cautious, and that's still a family trait to the current day. Consider it a test. House Hexos serves as a bridge between Fargrave's mortals and Daedra. If you can't keep a minor secret, then we can't recommend you to other organizations. It's a little out of line, but that's life on the edge of all reality.
I have a keen eye for spotting reliable adventurers in need of some extra work. It's one of the things I'm known for. So, are you the sort of person I think you are? A reliable adventurer looking to make a bit of gold? Yes. One of our skilled members, Erler, discovered some relics of note in the Brandfire Reformatory. He thinks it's too risky to go retrieve them himself, and the Gleaners agree. But we still want the relics. We'll pay you for your trouble. It's a building in the Deadlands that's controlled by the Waking Flame cult. Folks enter the building and don't leave. It stands to reason that their valuables are still there. Erler loiters near Madame Wim's. Ask him if you're curious. So, you in? Oh, you get to head out on an assignment. Have a good time, all right? We're a group of mortals and Daedra that do all sorts of things in Fargrave. We liberate items from across the plains for interested parties, explore hidden places, find treasure, vandalize. One thing I can say is that the work never bores me. Yes, but not just any sort of thieves and spies. We're extra-planar thieves and spies. In addition to utilizing Fargrave's public portals, we also have an arrangement with the mages of the Sarathu Tong, for when we need a special portal. They're a group of dark elf mages that were cast out of Morrowind for some offense or another against the Tribunal. They came to Fargrave and used their expertise at portal magic to supply House Halalu with trade goods from across the multiverse. Sometimes we need to go somewhere not readily connected to the portal plazas of Fargrave, or we need to reach a specific location quickly and quietly. That's when we turn to the Sarathu mages. And when they require our expertise, we reciprocate. Some of our biggest clients are the movers and shakers of the city, and we tend to avoid pilfering in our own backyard. Plus, the Grasp don't care. As long as we keep a low profile and don't make a spectacle, the Daedric authorities leave us alone. Me? Oh, I used to be a thief, but now I use my expertise to find talent and coordinate jobs for our clients. Besides, I love talking to adventurers, new arrivals and longtime Fargravians alike. Well, we usually have more work on hand than we have dedicated operatives. Besides, some missions involve dangers better suited to experienced adventurers instead of the specialized rogues who make up the core of the Gleaners. Well, it's not something you can just apply for. Invitation only, you understand. And that invitation has to come from one of the higher-ups, such as our founder, Piron Descent. But the first step is to make a good impression.
There's always opportunities in Fargrave for the ambitious and skilled. Take a contract with the Sarathu Tong, and you won't have to fight everyone else for work. Varus Dredane studies the death cycle of a creature called the Unmaker, and he says it is ready to undergo another terminal experiment. Varus always pays good coin to ensure that someone places seeing stones around the den, so he can gather data. Magical stones. They store information about what happens near where they're placed. Ask Varus if you're curious. He's tinkering away on something in the guild hall. And I have reports that the Unmaker has some Havikrell friends. Still interested? The Sarathu Tong does not pay for time spent on a job. Dragging your feet will get you no favors. I don't presume to know the results of Varus's years of study, or the extent of his eclectic knowledge. But I have noticed that the Unmaker reforms and returns to the Deadlands far more frequently than any other routinely killed Daedra. Can't say. I'm not Varus. It feels like he requests another termination of this Infernium every few days. As far as I know, that speed of return is unprecedented. It makes sense that Varus's studies have gotten a lot of backing from Dremora. Oversized, fiery Daedra. I'm not sure why these particular ones have taken to the Unmaker, but I hear that they are exceptionally ruthless. Also, they might be attempting to train the Unmaker. I can't imagine that's going well. Mages who owe fealty to the Great House Lalu. We transport wares and folks between Fargrave and Nirn. In a trade city like Fargrave, you can see how useful that is. Most merchants prefer working with us over, I don't know, a cult. Whomever builds the bridges sets the price of the crossing. Other groups in our position might not be as successful, but no one else has perfected transport across the plains. We're very specialized. Not everyone in the Tong spends their entire day working on the magics we've already discovered. The Tong supports artisans and scholars alike, who tend to have projects suited for different skill sets. That's where adventurers come in. Heard all that, and you don't want to work for the Tong. Figures. House Hexos is the largest group, but there's also the Gleaners of Erebus. You can talk to Hewlett Hexos or Luna Burial if you're interested, but there are others too. Hexos is reliable, and we've done enough business with the Gleaners to keep their thieving hands away from Tong property. But the Errant, that's what the others are called, are a selfish bunch. They're pactless, and that makes them desperate. We all serve different purposes. Hexos deals in goods across the plains. We're more magically minded. The Gleaners are useful for all covert operations, and the Errant, disorganized though they may be, give mortals structure. Fargrave's complex. Mostly higher-ranking members will be the ones with jobs. Take Varus Stradane, for example. He's a high-ranking mage with a number of dangerous experiments underway. But anyone can request the Tong assign an adventurer to their project. Me? If I ever needed to send an adventurer out, I'd just go myself. It wasn't too long ago when I was in your position, taking assignments from someone else. I learned that walking away from an enemy doesn't mean that you don't lose too. The plains are filled with the worst monsters and creatures the princes can think of. Don't take these challenges lightly.
Apologies. You damage our reputation. We'd rather feed this body to a flesh Atronach.
A fascinating specimen. Perhaps for later study. Many mortals don't live long enough to contribute even one meaningful idea to society.
The stricture protects everyone in Fargrave, mortals included.
You there. Come speak with me.
A mortal scholar presumes to know more than I. Do not be like her.
Maybe I worry too much, but I do not trust any cult that would advertise their group on paper. Paper is for printing truth, not spewing filth. It's difficult to prise information out of those Daedra, but not impossible.